Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome to SportsKidz, the podcast, a team get-together in the element of team sports. A podcast if you have a child or children, grandchildren playing sports, or if you are the quarterback of the high school football team. You need to jump on board. SportsKidz, the podcast, putting fun back into sports. And we are live from America's finest city. Welcome aboard to the debut, episode number 1 of SportsKidz 2020. I'm Felix Taverna, produced by Wade Taylor inside our WS Radio network. It's been a long time in fruition and, in planning and coming to fruition, the idea of what we're going to have over the next 59 and a half minutes. But welcome aboard. This is SportsKidz. We're live in San Diego at the WS Radio network. And along with all of you out there that have been invited to tune in on our debut, episode number 1 of 2020, it's been a long and winding road. And in creating SportsKidz, I had a vision of what I would like to perceive and share with our audience. And I think today might be a grand slam. It might be like just a walk-off grand slam because it's exactly what the concept is all about. And I'm happy to join in my friend, and he is a Houston Astro of the great Major League Baseball realm. His name is Garrett Stubbs, and I've known him since he was a little puppy. He's joining us live from his residence in Southern California. And Garrett, nice to have you. How are you?
I'm good, Felix. Thanks for having me. Long time, huh?
Yes, it has been, my friend. I am so proud of you. We go back. We have a lot of history. I have a lot of history with your mom and dad, your grandmother, and your step-grandfather who played in the major leagues as well. And I've seen you grow up. I've seen your younger brother, Cameron, grow up, CJ, and it's been a treat watching you develop. And if there's one person that I would like to kick off SportsKidz, and I was sharing with your dad and your mom at the festival known as Kaboo that was last year at the fairgrounds, I shared with him that I would love to do this because I had this vision. Now, I want to start off with the yearning and the learning years of your career. You grew up in Southern California, and I would say your first attempt at baseball was Little League in Del Mar. Would I be correct in assuming that?
Yeah, Little League Baseball was what kicked it off in T-ball right here in Del Mar, which is not a bad place to start.
And so was baseball your top sport? Was baseball what you were drawn to? Did you play football, lacrosse, any other sport, or were you just concentrating on baseball?
No, I played all sorts of sports as a kid. I think I was drawn to baseball more than others, but no, growing up, I played football. I played soccer. Soccer was actually probably one of my favorite sports, along with baseball. I'd go play tennis, golf. Never really stuck to one sport really until I got to high school, but I think baseball really drew me in from a mental standpoint, as well as just a physical standpoint. I just love playing the game.
So what was the influence of playing all the other sports?
I just loved being active. I mean, when you live in a place like San Diego and the weather's 70 degrees and sunny every single day, why not be outside? So I really just loved surfing. I mean, going to the beach was a huge thing for me. Playing volleyball, I remember going to my dad's tournament with his business back at the racetrack and playing volleyball with other 25 to 30-year-old men, and being 10, 11 years old and playing on the same volleyball team as them. So when you live in a city like this where you can be outside all the time, I think kids get trapped in the video game realm a little bit nowadays. So I took it as a great place and a great time to be outside, and I love being around sports all the time.
This is going to be very good. We're going to have a great podcast. Garrett Stubbs joining us, Houston Astro catcher, someone that I've known for a long period of time, and it warms my heart to have him on our episode number 1 of SportsKidz. I want to ask you, I would say you're 26 right now.
I am 26. I actually turned 27 next week on the 26th.
Wow. So that's a little confusing for me. You're going to be 27 on the 26th.
27 on the
The
26th, next Tuesday.
You might want to coin that 27 on the
Yeah, hey,
26th. Remember me something
consider
there
it
for you.
coined right now.
All right, baby. You know, we're all about, you're a real estate major in development at USC. So you didn't go for the ride. You just went to get a great education. But I want to take us back. So, I'm not really good with subtraction, but tell me what year you played in the Del Mar Little League.
I started Del Mar Little League probably around, we'll say 2000. I mean, I was probably 6, 7 years old when I started playing in Del Mar Little League, and took it from there at the, the minor level or whatever they call it nowadays. I'm not even sure, but took it all the way up to what they called majors at the time until I was about 12 years old. And I think that's about the cutoff for Del Mar Little League. But I mean, we had a beautiful field over there at Del Mar Heights. We played at Ashley Falls. And unfortunately, really, really sad, they're actually tearing down the Del Mar Heights baseball field here in the next year or so, which, kind of, is a big moment in this community and kind of a tough one. It was a place where I grew up playing, and if I didn't have that field, there's no way I'd be where I am right now. So.
Is that 101, right on the 101, right off the 101?
It's just above the 101. So Del Mar Heights Road, and you take the 101 up Del Mar Heights Road, and there's a elementary school there, and that's where I learned how to play baseball.
All right, so let's keep that in mind off the air. Let's see if we can draw some interest. Maybe we can share it as a landmark. Okay, so now during that time of playing Little League Baseball, I want to take us to the 12-year-old realm now. All right, so you're 12 years old. You might be in 6th or 7th grade. What was the quality of the Little League here in North San Diego County? Because you had Cardiff, you had La Jolla, you had Encinitas, which is developing a great baseball program throughout their Little League systems. How was the competition here?
It was phenomenal. I mean, there's Taylor Murphy was a guy that played in Solana Beach Little League. Same with Zach Zahner. Both of them had played professional baseball. There's a bunch of other ones too. Joey Donato is another name where I played.
Where did he go to high school?
He went to high school at Torrey Pines. So we actually played on the same high school team together too. But just Del Mar Little League as a whole, or Little League all in North County, San Diego, was great. Like I said, I played here in Del Mar, but we would play up there in Encinitas at Ecky Field, I think it's called, over right next to the YMCA.
Beautiful.
And we had a ton of all-star games there. Yes. And me and my brother were actually recently talking. We drive through San Diego, and all of a sudden we'll be driving, but we've been here before, and we'll go down the street a little bit more, and there's a baseball field, and both of us are like, yeah, we played on that baseball field back when we were, 12, 10, 11 years old.
And those were legendary times. Now, what year were you 12? So give me the year, 19.
It would have been 2005. I was
okay, 2005. Yeah. Okay, all right. So now let's jump from Little League. Were there any World Series contenders in the region of the coastal that were a part of the Little League system here in North San Diego County?
As far as the Little League World Series goes?
Yes, because Encinitas went to the finals.
So we had a phenomenal team. Me, Josh Sabrin, Danny Strokas, Keegan Ewell, who Eric Ewell, his dad, lives right up the street here in San Diego from my parents. And we had a really, really – Cade Gata was on that team. I could probably name off maybe the whole starting lineup, but we had a really good team, and we went to the championships of districts.
Right.
And then the years prior, when we were 9, 10 years old, we actually went all the way to state. And that was kind of, I think, the building foundation of my love for baseball. Just that team aspect and winning, and, going to pizza afterwards at OG's over there on Del Mar Heights Road by the Highlands, and really developing really great friends that I'm still in touch with to this day. But that was really the foundation from 10 to 12 years old, playing those all-star games. And we had a great group of parents, that really helped us go to tournaments, driving us. And I don't think it's until you get a little older where you realize how much time your parents really put into helping you be able to do that kind of stuff. So it was a great experience, and one that really set the foundation for where I'm at now.
Absolutely right. Your mom and dad had known him for a long time. Your dad used to a former advertising executive, and then came over and developed the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club in a lot of different ways. Your mom, excellent real estate broker, along with your grandma, one of the tops in the whole country. Marty and Maxine and Marty. I've been friends of theirs for a long time, and they've been such a part of family to me. I don't want to lose track, and I want to give them their props because they're listening. We're live, by the way, on the WS Radio Network, and we welcome you from coast to coast worldwide. This is SportsKidz, episode number 1, something that I had a love for a long period of time, and we tried to get it launched, and then all of this COVID-19, and it shook up everybody. And I hope that if you're listening to this podcast or the broadcast, you're feeling pretty good, because this is a real good, feel-good story. So I want to speed up the time, but this keeps on jagging me in the back of the head. You ever play against Mickey Moniak?
I actually never played against him. He was a little bit younger than I was, but my brother definitely played against him.
Okay, Mickey Moniak was like the top draft choice for the Philadelphia Phillies, and he went to school at your rival, La Costa Canyon. And so I have a good friend. His name is Jack Zarenzik, and Jack used to work for the New York Mets and the Pittsburgh Pirates under Kevin Towers when Kevin Towers was a scout. The late Kevin Towers, which I know is a dear friend to your family, because I met Kevin Towers at your opening day party at Del Mar, and I think about him all the time. Jack Zarenzik is a longtime friend of mine, and we grew up on the East Coast. He went to Newcastle High School, and I went to a school called Lincoln High School in Elwood City, Pennsylvania. We became friends, and we loved the game of baseball, and he eventually became a scout for the Milwaukee Brewers, and then he went to become the scout or the general manager of the Seattle Mariners. And so he came to visit, and he was spending a lot of time in North San Diego County, and this especially when he was a scout for the Milwaukee Brewers. And he said to me, you got to see this kid. I said, what kid? He said, this kid at La Costa Canyon named Mickey Moniak. He said, this kid's a really, really great hitter. I said, I think he's going to be like maybe the top 3 draft choices in the country. And I said, wow, that's fantastic. I said, man, and he goes, I'm going to tell you something, Felix. He says, this North San Diego County baseball is such good product. He said a lot of players are coming from, Poway, Rancho Bernardo, Del Mar, La Jolla, in those areas that make up our great city. But enough being said right there. So I want to take you, now we go to Torrey Pines. And so you become a freshman on the Torrey Pines. Did you play Torrey Pines High School baseball as a freshman, or did you play until you were a sophomore? What was the case when you went to high school?
Yeah, when I got to high school, I actually got in there as a freshman up on the varsity team, which was very, very exciting. I got to play with some older guys, and from when I was a really young age, I always tried to play up with the older guys, just to try to create some really big challenges for myself. And so when I got to be a freshman at Torrey Pines, I got to play as a freshman, and Joey Donato had done it the year just prior to me as a freshman. And so I got to play with guys a little bit bigger, stronger, faster than me as a freshman. And I was a catcher standing at 5'2", 105 pounds. So, one of the smaller guys on the team. But it was a really good experience and a lot of fun. You there, Felix? Sorry, you cut out on me a little bit.
Yeah. Are you there now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I think it was my end. But did you play? When did you really start? Did you take over as a sophomore as like the number 1 catcher at Torrey Pines?
Yeah, I played behind Stephen Goodman, who went to MIT that following year. He was a senior, and he was catching in front of me when I was a freshman. And it wasn't until my sophomore year where I really solidified the starting job at Torrey. So, yeah, my sophomore year was kind of and I actually got DH'd for as a catcher. I wasn't quite big enough and strong enough to be the hitter that I wanted to be. So I got DH for my freshman year, got to hit a little bit more my sophomore year, and then progressed from there.
Okay, so you came in wanting to be a catcher, and you stayed as a catcher all throughout your high school years?
I did, and I played a little bit of shortstop too. So I would switch back and forth a little bit and be able to play around the infield. I've played actually in a winter ball game at Torrey. I got to play all 9 positions in one game, which was exciting.
Was that as a senior or junior?
That would have been my senior year, yeah.
Wow, you were the king up there, huh? You had
It was fun.
did you go to the CIF and win the county championship, or how was your team?
So we never won the county championship, but my senior year, we played against Grossmont in the semifinal game. Ended up beating a legendary San Diego pitcher, Joe Musgrove, who's now with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
All right.
We were playing, so we were
That's
playing
me,
against
baby.
him. Yeah, and
Hey,
shout
Joe,
out
nice
Grossmont,
seeing you.
Joe Musgrove. He's a good
Okay.
dude.
Okay,
Really,
we're gonna have to
guy.
stop. We're gonna have to stop this. We're gonna have to stop this. Sport Kids, get Wade, get Joe Musgrove on. Okay, Garrett Stubbs is giving us a lot of time. He let it out. We got a Pittsburgh Pirate to bring on. So continue on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we played against Joe, and we actually beat Joe in the semifinal game. It was we were in the losers bracket, so we had to beat him twice, and we actually beat Joe in that game. He would later be drafted by the Blue Jays in the first round after that season out of high school. And then the following game, we lost to a kid last name Nesevich who went to Santa Barbara and ended up losing in the semifinal game. But that was as far as we made it over at Torrey. Phenomenal teams, very, very good players. We played really well as a team, but sometimes you fall a little short.
Yeah, sometimes you do, my friend, and but you gotta you gotta show up. You gotta play the
no
game.
doubt.
You never know. Baseball takes different hops, different things happen. I want to get back as a senior, junior, and a sophomore. I would assume as a sophomore that you might have had some visions of playing on the next level, which is college baseball. But I want to emphasize what you shared about your mom and dad and all the parents out there, because it's a very important part of the design of SportsKidz, by the way, is that I want to talk a little bit about club teams. So I think that you might, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you might have had to play baseball all year round. So you were a part of a club team and you traveled, to city, play tournaments. And so the competition as you went outside of San Diego had to be terrific.
Yeah, no doubt. Luckily, we have a lot of really great competition here in San Diego. The players that come out of San Diego, Kevin Newman was another one out of Poway. That I played against in high school. We had a club team that my dad started, the Powerhouse, back when I was 8, 9 years old. And I played on the Powerhouse all through high school. But when I got into high school, I started to switch a little bit more. But he started it from the ground up, the Delmar Powerhouse. And so we played every single day, every single weekend, no matter what time of the year it was. That's the beautiful part about living here in San Diego. So we got to do that year round, and club teams were a huge part of my life. And really what was the thing that made me be able to really craft my game together and be able to practice every single day, day in and day out. Because if you're not doing it every single day, that you're not getting better. So that was a great way for us to keep getting better. And I think San Diego does a great job of having tournaments and creating teams for a lot of people to be able to play and get better.
All right. So you put a lot of time, hours into perfecting your craft. And, you've gone through the high school. You didn't get the ring. You didn't get the championship, but you love the game and you're hoping that you can play the next level. How did the USC situation, how did it become about? And did they come to you and offer you a scholarship, or did you have to walk on? What's the case there?
Yeah, so I wanted to go to USC my entire life.
Why?
My grandfather, Chuck Stubbs, went to UCLA and USC, but always claimed USC a little bit harder. My mother actually went to UCLA, so when I wanted to be a diehard USC student and player, she always encouraged it because it's a phenomenal school, and she knew that. But I'm sure there was a little soft spot in her heart that kind of said, he wants to go to USC. But my junior year, I started to go into those showcases, tried to visit USC as much as possible, sending them emails, just trying to get my name into their head. The end of my junior year, had a good year and got a scholarship to go to USC, which was an absolute dream come true. Me and my family have a little island in our kitchen that we talk about. That's kind of the place where everything happens. And I remember me as well as my brother, when I got drafted and all that, everything happened right there at that island. And when I signed my letter of intent to go to USC, it was one of the better days of my life.
Let me stop right there, because in this fast-moving world that we live in, we meet some wonderful people. And your grandfather was without doubt one of the kindest, nicest men that I've ever met. And your grandmother and my mom, all three have passed, but the memories of sitting with Chuck and just sitting down talking with him, and just how his voice carried the conversation, and how pleasant he was. God rest his soul, your grandma, Mimi, and my mom, Antoinette. They're probably having a little pie and coffee up in heaven. So now, how did it all come full circle? Or did you get a telegram, a letter that USC accepted you? You were out there pitching, you put it out there, and there's a lot of platforms that, recruiting platforms that kids could have, and they send it to the coaches, and coaches look at them and say, hey, there's a kid down there in San Diego. He's pretty good. We might want to look at, and so it was person-to-person content marketing, as we like to say here at W.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. How did you learn that you got a full scholarship? Did you get a full scholarship to USC? If not,
I actually got a quarter scholarship to USC.
Okay.
So I wasn't one of those big name guys out of high school.
Okay, so you got, partial help, and then you went on there, and I'm sure that when you got the scholarship and you showed up to USC, what was it like going from Del Mar to USC, from high school baseball to one of the best conferences in baseball in the country, the Pac-12? What was it like being on the grounds at USC?
Yeah, I mean, to use the cliche, a dream come true, it really was. For me, they don't use telegrams anymore, by the way, Felix. We have
I understand that. I know, but baseball. I wanted to take you back in a little passion.
Yeah.
You have a lot of time. You might want to go ahead and Google Babe Ruth and riding on trains and getting their information by telegrams. That Babe Ruth learned he was traded by a telegram. I understand that, but I was just all of a sudden, if I come home from school one day and all of a sudden I get a letter that, hey, I've been accepted at USC. First the acceptance, and then being able to be, on the baseball team, because how many national championships did USC win in college baseball?
Yeah, we got 12 of them.
Wow.
Most all time. The next closest is, I believe, is 6. Texas and LSU both have 6, I believe. There might be another school in there, but yeah, USC leads with 12. Rod
Dedereau or Augie was the manager for Dado. Rod Dado. Yeah. What great baseball? What great baseball? Oh, yeah. What great Darryl Strawberry went to USC, right?
I'm unsure.
I think he did. Anyway, what great baseball. Ever hear any John Elway stories about playing in Los Angeles?
There's plenty of Rod Dado stories. I'll tell you, he called everyone Tiger. My step-grandfather, Fred Shuey, he went to USC as well, so he could give you a laundry list of Rod Dado stories. And then after him came Mike Gillespie, another great, phenomenal coach who has recently retired from UC Irvine. He was the coach there after USC for quite some time. Phenomenal person. Somebody who I talked to through the recruiting process out of high school. To go to UC Irvine, but ended up choosing USC. But yeah, showing up to the campus at USC and being able to step onto into the dorms and see my new roommates and teammates, and I had to really prove myself. I wasn't, this big guy like the rest of the guys that I might have been going to USC with. So it's always been a stepping stone for me to wherever the next place to go is. I've really got to prove myself, being an undersized kid my whole life. So being able to go there and wear that uniform and now be a part of that tradition, it kind of gets me a little bit nostalgic here.
Well, I don't blame you because it's given me some chills too. Because I understand, the real estate. You're in San Diego, America's finest city, one of the great cities, Del Mar, which I have put a lot of hours into promoting youth sports in that community, and I feel like Del Mar is somewhat as a second and third home in likes of a Solana Beach. But you get to USC, you go from Southern California and you go into, downtown Los Angeles is where USC is located. And, you're going from, the beach to the brick and mortar community and, such prestige being at USC. So, you come and you make the squad and you're a part of it, and we speed up to the first game as you transit from high school to college. In the first weekend that you're on the team, the Friday night opener, you start out in left field.
Yeah, so I really have my whole life just wanted to be in the lineup any way I could. Catching was kind of my forte. Kind of my number one spot, but any chance I could get into the lineup, that's where I was going to play. And so when I got to USC, a guy named Kevin Roundtree was our catcher, and he pretty much had that spot locked up. So I started looking around the field and seeing where I could play, and there was left field wide open. So I told our manager or head coach, Frank Cruz, hey, I can play a little left field. And so he put me out there, and I started to play a little left field. And next thing I know, opening weekend comes around, and I'm the starting left fielder. So
all right, don't ruin the story now, because this is a fantastic story, Wade Taylor.
So I get into left field. I play my Friday night game the whole time there at left field, and we get done with the game, and the next day I look at the lineup, and there I am starting in center field.
Center field now. Okay, this is your second collegiate baseball game.
This is the second collegiate baseball game, and now I'm starting in center field. So I go out there, I play center field. And we have a good game. I don't remember exactly the score, but we get done with that game. And the next day I look at the lineup, and we have our freshman pitcher, Stephen Tarpley, pitching. And there I am, starting behind the plate, catching. So on that Sunday game, for the third game of the season, I had played left field Friday. I had started in center field on Saturday. And there I was starting behind the plate on our Sunday first opening weekend game. And to top off the story, that pitcher ended up going 6 or 7 innings, I believe, got pulled out of the game. Another pitcher comes in. With that pitcher comes another catcher, and I moved over to third base and ended up finishing the game on Sunday at third base. So it was a pretty exciting weekend, to say the least, and incredibly fun for me to be able to bounce around the field and get to really enjoy having a few different views throughout the weekend and being able to contribute and help our team win a couple games there.
I have so many questions. I just love this. How much of a difference between high school and college? Now, you just been only, 3 nights, and you played 4 different positions. I do believe you just said left field, center field, third base, catcher, third base, what have you. Okay, now, you're young. Okay, you only had. I mean, this is your debut. This is your your rookie appearance. I want fathers and sons that are listening to this, or coaches that might possibly be listening to this. How big of a difference was it in San Diego? Great college, high school baseball, by the way. How big of a difference was baseball high school versus going? I mean, like, this is no, chopped liver. This is one of the 3 best conferences in baseball, the Pac-12. How different was the competition?
Yeah, well, Felix, even to this day, when I move up levels, whether it be from high school to college to pro ball, A ball to AA to AAA to the big leagues, what I always keep in mind is that no matter what you do, whatever level you're at, it's always the same game. The players might be a little bit better. They might run a little faster, throw a little harder, hit the ball a little farther. But no matter what, it is always the same game. It's 60 feet to the mound. It is 90 feet down the bases. And it's the same game no matter what. The competition most certainly at every level gets a little bit better. But don't forget that the reason why you're there the reason why you're playing against those other people is because that's what you belong there. You're a part of that. You've been asked to be on this team or at this level for a reason. Somebody believes in you, so you should believe in yourself. And whether the guy next to you is, a foot taller than you, 100 pounds heavier than you, like I said, you're there for a reason. And the competition, no doubt, gets better, but you get better as it goes on too. So whatever level you keep moving up to, whether you're a freshman or a senior in college, you just got to keep getting better. And the more times you get better, and the more often you get better, now people, when you're a senior, you have a freshman come in, they're going to look at you and be like, wow, that guy's a really good ball player. I want to be like him when I become a senior. And every year, hopefully that kid gets a little bit better, sophomore, junior year, and then senior year it flip-flops. And some freshmen's looking up at that kid and trying to be him. So the competition, no doubt, gets better every time you move up. But it's always the same game, and everyone's got to keep remembering that.
I disagree.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I disagree. I think that I think baseball is a game of fundamentals. I come from a very, very solid fundamental high school team, and I had a baseball coach that I loved and adored. His name was Bill Spellman, and he worked these teams fundamentally. And I think that when you get the fundamentals and you're able to translate that into real-time athletics, those situations usually find yourself on a winning way. And I think the competition, but I want to just get off that completely, and I want to take it to what prompted you wanting to be a catcher?
I kind of got thrown into it. At 10 years old, a guy named Tim Malott, whose son now just accepted it, Matt Malott, who I played with, just accepted a job with the Kansas City Royals as a coach. He kind of just threw me back there because we didn't have a catcher, and I think he just thought I was athletic enough to play the position, and I certainly wasn't scared to do it. So I got thrown back there, but really what ended up giving me that love for catching was a guy named Ed Herman, who people called Hoggy, played for the White Sox, was a two-time All-Star, who passed away years back while I was in college. But I dedicate almost my entire being of being a catcher to him. He told me that the fastest way to become a big leaguer was a left-handed hitting catcher. And I heard that and I said, okay, that's what I'm doing.
You're left-handed and you're a catcher.
Yeah. So I hit left-handed. And when he told me that, I said, okay, that's the way I'm going to get to the big leagues.
What did he teach you?
He taught me everything from framing.
What's framing?
Stealing strikes. And I wouldn't even say stealing strikes, but it's making sure that you're not losing strikes almost. When a guy paints a pitch on the outside corner, you want to make sure that umpire doesn't miss it. If he misses by a little bit, you want to give that umpire a good look to make sure that he wants to call it a strike. But that's kind of the receiving and framing part of baseball that has really become a huge part of baseball. Just making the pitch look good and letting him make the decision behind you. But he always talked about being a good receiver, blocker, but pitch calling was a huge thing for him too. And he let me call the pitches from a very young age, about 12, 13 years old. And then I called pitches all the way from when I was in high school into college and now into pro ball. So.
What do you mean calling pitches when you were young, 12, 13, when he would go out and teach you?
So he would kind of give me things to look at in a hitter, right. Basically reading swings, situations, understanding that when you have an open base and a runner on second and maybe their best hitter up, or you have a right-handed pitcher and a left-handed batter with a righty on deck, to think about those kinds of things. When you're watching as a fan, you're really just looking at the moment right there in time. But as a player, especially as a catcher, you have to think into the future. What is the situation right now? But how can I put myself into a better situation? So you got to look at the guy on deck. You got to look at the guy after him. And that's what managers do. And that's kind of what a catcher is. He's kind of an on-field manager. So looking into the future a little bit and understanding the situation you're in and how to make it better. And that kind of dictates a little bit about what you're doing pitch to pitch. And he taught me that from a really young age.
Left-handed. I mean, no disrespect, but you're 5'8", 175 pounds, but at
5'10" now.
5'10", you've grown. Okay, I know
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
Congratulations. But when you were at USC, you were 5'8", 175. Is that
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Okay, so you're 5'8".
Well, when I got to USC, I was 145 pounds.
145. So you put 30 on, and so that was
Yeah.
from all the good food or all the nightlife there.
Yeah, combination of the two.
Okay, so years ago, I've been fascinated. With baseball. I lost a lot of interest, and my friend Lefty Potter, he has Potter Baseball on the East Coast. He takes teenagers, like 25, 30 of them, through 6 different states during the summer, and they visit, and they were supposed to go to Cooperstown, and this is all. It was his 10-year anniversary, and when he brings these travel teams together, and he was a great left-hand pitcher at my high school, and he came on. We did a couple episodes of SportsKidz, and he talked about all the trials and tribulations of doing that. 31 days. He goes every day. They're somewhere else. He has 25 kids. They van, and he loves baseball. But I can remember having a conversation with Blackjack McDowell. Blackjack McDowell. You might not know him. By the way, we're visiting with Garrett Stubbs. Yeah, he's the Houston Astros catcher. He's a byproduct of Del Mar, California, Little League. Went to USC, played baseball, was the Johnny Bench Award winner there his senior year. And that's next up on that because that was a tremendous honor. But Blackjack McDowell asked me one time, we're sitting in a sports bar in Del Mar, and I'm sitting next to him. And this is a guy that had a pretty nice college career. He pitched at Stanford. He pitched for the White Sox, and I believe he pitched for the Yankees as well. But he had a tremendous career. And we were sitting there one night, and we were just holding down court. And he said something to me that has never escaped me in my lifetime. And he said to me, Felix, do you know why baseball players don't go right from high school to the major leagues? And there's very few of them at that time. Now, there might be a lot more at this day and age, but I'm going back 20 years ago. All right, you're 26, so you're growing up, and you can answer the question. What do you think, and what do you think he shared with me why these players didn't go right to the major leagues?
They got to grow up a little bit. That would be my answer.
Okay. It wasn't what he said. He said, and this is going to be a beautiful answer, by the way, because you're going to answer this question almost eloquently as your persistence and determination to get to the major leagues has been. He said because it's extremely hard to hit a baseball. Is that true? It's true.
One of the hardest thing to do in sports
is hit a baseball.
If you were to ask me my opinion on it, it's the hardest thing to do in sports.
Why do you say that?
You've got a moving object,
right.
Round moving object, trying to hit a round moving bat. And nowadays, they're throwing that round ball really, really hard. And they're not just throwing it hard. They're taking a little bit off of it. They're making it move certain ways. And you've got to try to hit it. And you don't know what's coming. So, yeah, to me, hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports.
And I think Bob Horner was playing third base for the Atlanta Braves. I think he was right to high school to the major leagues. This is before the high schools ever went from high school, or athletes went from high school to professional sports like they do in basketball, and then they have to wait a couple years, 3 years to go into the NFL. But nevertheless, and I thought about that. It never escaped me. And so we're at the senior year of USC. Garrett Stubbs is joining us. Excuse me. My mouth is a little dry because I'm really excited about this. Produced by Wade Taylor inside our WS Radio Network. Garrett Stubbs, longtime family friend. Watched this young man grow up as a young pup, and he's moving along. He's a senior now at USC, going back 6 years ago, and he's the member of the USC Trojan baseball team, and you're catching. And when did you take over the full-time duties of catching? Was it sophomore, junior, or senior year?
At USC, I took over the full-time duties as a sophomore. So same as high school. Got there my freshman year. Took a little bit of time to adjust, get a little feel for the game and the new competition and kind of how the game was going to be flowing. And then my sophomore year was really when I started to become the starting catcher.
All right, so we're going to go right from the sophomore to the senior. Okay, so you have a great sophomore year. You get home to San Diego Del Mar. You work out, you go surf, and you get those get to your junior year. You're building the bond. You're building your fraternity of brothers in your baseball team. You might get to Omaha for the World Series, whatever the case might be. Now we get to the senior year, and this is your third year as a catcher of the USC Trojans, and then you become the Johnny Bench Award winner. And that is the award like the Heisman Trophy to college football's best player. They give that award to college's best catcher. Who were you up against? And tell me the truth. Did you think you had a chance to win?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, I tell you this. When we started the year, that award wasn't even in my mind. It wasn't that I didn't think I could win it, but that's not really why you play the game, and not how you win championships for sure if you're chasing individual awards. But when it came down to the end of the year, I always believed in myself. I always thought I was a good player. And when it came down to the end of the year, I'm looking at my stat sheet and I'm looking at the rest of the country and I'm like, and they're telling me I got a chance to win this thing. And I said, wow, I really do have a shot to win this thing.
What's it based on?
It's based on a number of things, mostly all defensive analytic stuff. So anything from just your errors, your throwout percentage, as well as Johnny Bench himself will watch video of you and kind of be obviously the deciding factor of whether he really believes that you're the best catcher in the country.
And so now you have a dozen games left and you're in the running, and are you having a good year at USC? Or are you a nationally ranked team?
Yeah, we were. So my years prior, before my senior year, I didn't have very good seasons. My junior year was the first one where we had a winning season. And then after that, my senior year was the year where we had a real shot of getting into the regionals, and we did. And I think that kind of helped me individually as well. But that was the first year where we made it into the regionals and was by far the best year I ever had at USC.
That was your junior year?
That was my senior year. I will take it back to my junior year. I had a good junior year. And actually the Houston Astros gave me a phone call to draft me in my junior year. And I just wanted to say this because a lot of kids go to college and they want to be Major League Baseball players, and that's great. And I think that they should. And my junior year got a call from the Houston Astros, and my goal going to USC was, yes, to be a Major League Baseball player, but first and foremost was getting my degree. And so I went back my senior year to get my degree, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life.
Why was that?
One, I got to finish something that I began 4 years prior, which is something very important to me, to finish things that you begin, and got that degree. And it just so happened that I got to mature another year, learn a little bit more about myself and the things that really matter to me, and ended up having a senior season where I was really focused on the team as a whole. And with that came a lot of individual awards that ended up helping me that following year get drafted by the Houston Astros and end up where I am now.
Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely. It's an absolute beautiful story. How old were you when you graduated from USC?
Would have been almost just about 22 years old.
All right. 22 years old. So take a little break here. Let me just go to a little memory. All right. So I was telling you about the picnics, the barbecues that T-Pat and Marty Joe used to have in the summertime. After the racetrack, as I said, his father was an executive for the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club, and so we would play wiffle ball in the front yard. And Garrett and CJ and Mike Ernst, who was the CFO of Del Mar, his kids would come over, and then Billy Navarro's kids would come over, and I'd be on the mound, and I'd be the the steady pitcher. I would put the teams, we'd draft, we'd have 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and we'd play these baseball games, wiffle ball games, and I would be the steady pitcher, and I loved it, okay? And we had bases, and so I could remember this one day that Garrett comes up and I throw him and he hits this ball like he had these huge trees. It was like a beautiful park. It was like 80, 150 feet. And I mean, the ball hits up there and we said, okay, if it went farthest part of this tree, it was a home run and he hits a shot. And the next inning, Michael Ernst's son comes up and he hits the ball. And I mean, he hits the ball like over the trees. And these kids were so competitive. And I think about those days all the time. And I think about like Billy Navarro's son went to a college in Colorado and hit the longest home run ever in the history of the college. And Michael Ernst's sons were golfers, and you and your brother went to USC. So, just the love of the game. So you're named the Johnny Bench Award winner. I mean, you met Johnny Bench. It must have been the biggest thrill of your collegiate career.
Yeah, it certainly was. I got to go to Wichita, Kansas, which is where they had the Johnny Bench Award, which now it's moved to Cincinnati, which is a little bit more fitting considering the award is named after Johnny.
Right.
And I've actually developed a very good relationship with Johnny, and been able to
pick his brain.
Pick his brain. We've had a good friendship. He actually texted me this morning, funny enough, just about the season and kind of, giving me a little bit of, it's such a bummer that we're in this situation and, hope you're staying safe and whatnot. But to get back to the award, it was a really good opportunity for me to be able to talk to the greatest catcher to ever play baseball. And so I've gotten to develop a good friendship with him. And when we went and played Cincinnati in June this last year, got to hang out with him a little bit and actually be there for the announcement for the 2019 Johnny Bench Award winner. So that winning that award was pretty incredible. I was up against Cade Civic of LSU and Matt Wynn of Virginia Military Institute. So pretty special stuff. My whole family was there, of course, as they are always the biggest supporters in my life.
They have been.
So it was a great time and a pretty incredible moment.
There's been so many stories about Garrett Stubbs here. He's joining us, a 26-year-old young man, a member of the Houston Astros organization, got called up, still in college. We're going to have to edit a couple pieces of what Garrett just said. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I remember the Big Red Machine, and I remember Johnny Bench, and I remember the Reds breaking my heart in 1972 when Bob Moose threw a wild pitch and 2 runs scored, and the Reds went to the World Series. It was great battles. Johnny Bench, incredible catcher, was a part of a team that had superstars. The Reds were just Pete Rose. They were just a good pitching staff, and I remember how I hated Johnny Bench for years because as a kid, a teenager, the Reds broke my heart 2 years in a row being a Pirate fan. Truly a great catcher. You get the award and now you finish up, and then all of a sudden it's the Major League Draft. And what are you thinking now?
Yeah, so going into the Major League Draft, I didn't really know where I was going to go. I was a senior, which seniors don't really get too much love going into the draft. But I was really just looking once again for just an opportunity to prove myself. And the Houston Astros ended up taking a flyer on me in the 8th round. And, that next week I was shipped off to Tri-City, New York, which is where our short season team was. Which is also the place that my younger brother CJ played his first professional game.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a.
Let me stop you for 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, because did you not say that the Houston Astros drafted you as a junior?
They never drafted me. They gave me a phone call and asked me.
I see.
Would you take X amount of money to go into the draft? And I took it upon myself to go back for my senior year and be able to finish up school and also give it another run at getting into playoffs and winning another championship.
I see. So did you think that perhaps because of the interest that they had for you as a junior, that would cross over into your senior, and that on draft night, how'd you feel on draft night?
Yeah, I thought the Houston Astros were definitely someone who would be of interest. And Tim Kostick was the scout that drafted me. And so he's become a good friend as well. And, he always showed interest in me. He was a very good guy. And I thought that the Houston Astros would be a very fitting place. And it just so happened that that's how it went. So it was a very, very fun experience.
All right. So now what year is this?
This would have been 2015. That was a 2015 draft.
All right, 2015. So they whisked you away and they put you into rookie bar, I would assume.
Yeah, that was short season A ball is what it's called.
Where'd you go next level?
So that first year I played short season A ball for about 4 weeks, and then ended up getting promoted after a month to low A ball, which was in Quad Cities, Iowa.
Wow.
Lots of bus rides through a lot of corn in those leagues.
Well, wait, stop right there. This is my show, my man. From California to New York, upstate, and then maybe a community there to Iowa. I mean, there's a little culture shock involved in those moves.
No doubt. No doubt.
So,
you are living in places you've never been before.
And so you're in second level. Is that a B or an A, or what is it?
Yeah, that would still be A ball. So it goes short season, low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the big leagues. It's a long road to get to the big leagues. You got to want it a lot.
Yeah. And so how much were you making a week?
Sheesh. In A ball, we would have been making about, our paychecks every month were $1,200.
Where'd you go from there?
Sorry, that paycheck was actually high. Our paychecks in A ball were actually $800 every month.
Very nice. Okay. Well, I mean, some have to pay the price. And
you definitely pay the price. You got to be eating at McDonald's and all those gas
stations. There's a lot of minor league players that never get to the major leagues that spend their whole entire
a lot of really great players. A lot of really great players that don't make it.
Yeah, and so you're gracious for whatever advancement you can make because you're all in it together. You might be friends, but you're all competing against each other. Next level. So where'd you go from Iowa to where?
So then the following year I started in high A, which was in Lancaster, California, not too far from LA, which was nice. It was a good place for my parents to be able to come and visit.
Next.
So I played half the season there in Lancaster, was an all-star there in Lancaster and high A California League. And at the all-star break, got called up to double A and finished out the year there. That was 2016.
Right.
Finished up there in double A. Following year started in double A again in 2017.
Nice.
Was an all-star there in 2017 and played the entire season there in 2017. Ended up getting called up to triple A at the very, very end of that season. And then in 2018, played the entire year in Fresno, California in triple A.
Hold on. When your first triple A, just prior to that, was that in Santa Barbara?
No, they were also in Fresno.
So you went from you start moving that year triple A at Fresno, and then you made the triple A All-Star team your first year there, didn't you?
Yeah, in 2018 I made the triple A All-Star team. Ended up finishing the entire season in Fresno, California. I was an All-Star. Hoping to get called up, but sometimes it doesn't go your way.
All righty. Keep
and
it
then
going.
then we can move on to the 2019 season, which was the best season I've ever experienced in my life, because it was the year I got to debut as a Houston Astro. Started in AAA in Round Rock.
Where's Round Rock?
It's in little outside Austin, Texas.
All right, so that's AAA. So now, you're at the highest level before the next leap going into Major League Baseball. We got about 4 minutes. This is the most important story part of the whole podcast is that they call you up.
Yep. So I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I get pulled out of the game. I actually hit a home run that game. I was when I got pulled out, I was 2 for 2 with a single and a homer.
Nice.
Got pulled out of the game. Yeah, it was a nice one to get pulled up on. I my manager comes up to me, shakes my hand, says, "Hey, we're going to have to take you out of the game." And I get a little smirk on my face. He goes, "You're going to the big leagues."
Wow.
And I get embraced by my teammates. Very exciting moment. And this was in about the 6th inning. So I had another 3 innings to think about how I was going to tell my parents.
Wow.
And I'll make it short and sweet, get done with the game. I get to calling my parents. They don't pick up. They follow along every game. So they'd had a little bit of an inkling that maybe got called up because I got pulled out of the game. I call them again. They can't pick up. Finally get a hold of them. They were on a plane back from Corvallis. They were just watching my brother's last collegiate game. I get them on the phone. I tell them that I'm going to become a big leaguer. And they erupt in excitement. And the rest of the plane is there listening on speaker. And the whole entire plane gets an applause. So pretty surreal experience.
We got about 4.5 minutes actually, and Wade Taylor's producing the podcast. So, what do you do? I mean, like all of a sudden you show up to Houston, the baseball park, and tell us what happens.
So this was my call up was on May 26th, which is my birthday.
Yeah,
so I got called up to the big leagues on my birthday.
27, 26. Remember
yep,
that?
That's right. And
okay, we got to frame that.
I get to Houston. I show up, I talk to the manager, and I actually had to wait 2 days before I made my debut. I was sitting there with the anticipation of playing, sitting there for 2 games, and I make my debut against one and only left-handed pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, John Lester.
Wow.
So pretty cool guy to get your major league debut off. I get there. And my first at bat against John Lester, I hit a double off of the left center wall for my first major league hit.
Your first at bat?
First at bat in the major leagues off John Lester, left-handed pitcher facing me, left-handed batter, and hit a opposite field double to left center, which was a kind of a blackout moment for me, walking up to the plate, trying to really embrace it all.
Wow.
But yeah, very, very surreal experience.
The blackout moment for me would be like showing up to the clubhouse. All of a sudden, here's this kid from AAA that's coming in. These guys are looking around, and these are great baseball teams. I mean, the Houston Astros. There's about it. Some great players there. I mean, now. Are you trying to tell me that there's no difference between being in AAA and the major leagues?
When I tell you there's no difference, I'm talking about the actual game itself.
The game
when
itself.
When you've got 50,000 people watching you,
right?
When you've got Justin Verlander or Garrett Cole on the mound,
right.
I would be lying to you if I said that inside you did not feel different playing on that stage versus playing in Del Mar Little League.
You win.
Back
you win.
when
you
were
know what?
12 years old.
You might have got a law degree at USC. You know what? You win. We want to keep this within an hour frame because we're going to send this out virally to a network, and we're very, very pleased. I want to thank Wade Taylor. We're down to about 1.5 minutes, but I got a couple questions, and I got to first tell you, I got to do a part 2 with you. Okay?
Yep.
I got to do a part 2 because this is really, really good. And Wade worked really hard on putting everything together. We're also videotaping it, getting it down there for you to see. And he looks fantastic. My man, Garrett. So many players never get a chance. A lot of baseball players, they put their whole career in playing game, and then they never get an opportunity to play in the major leagues. We don't have very much time, but I want to leave the podcast and this interview with is that your brother, CJ, gets drafted a year ago by none other than the Houston Astros, and he's a catcher. It was a pitcher. He had the Tommy John surgery, but, I think they drafted him as a catcher as well. So is this going to make for a great next podcast because we'll have to get CJ on as well.
Yeah, we'll make sure to get CJ on here and let him know
absolutely.
his story.
This is
he's
good
going to be a
stuff.
big leaguer one day too.
Oh, yes,
No
he
doubt
is.
about
I
it.
heard he crushed the ball at
Oh,
rookie
yeah.
bar. He's crushing it like a 700 batting for power and 347. And like I said, I could help you guys pick up. I could teach you a couple of hitters. Dave Parker's a good friend of mine. You might remember him. He won a couple of national batting championships. But we're down to about 30 seconds here. It's been a pleasure revisiting this with you. I want to do part 2. You are a gem. I'm so happy you're in the major leagues, and you're going to wait for the next call in regard to, as we all watch what sports is going to do and open up, and hopefully we can get the baseball season in, but keep working out. I am so proud to have you. That's Garrett Stubbs, catcher for the Houston Astros. Thank you very much, my man. Thank you, Wade Taylor.
Felix.
This is SportsKidz, the podcast broadcast. Garrett Stubbs been our guest. From Little League to the major leagues. A great story here by a great young man and a great family. We'll see you next time on SportsKidz. Thanks for tuning in.